Here we are with our second artwork for today. This is Caravaggio's The Calling of St. Matthew, and it's still in its original location, the Contarelli Chapel, in the Church of San Luigi dei Franceschi in the city of Rome. Now let me set it up for you. What we have here is a story told in the New Testament in which the Roman tax collector Levi was working in a tavern, well, doing his thing, collecting taxes, when Jesus came in and pointed at Levi. In the moment that Levi made eye contact with Jesus, he realized that this was the Son of God. He rose from the table and he left to join Jesus and became one of his followers. In that moment, his name changed from Levi to Matthew. So that is how we're getting this, the calling of Saint Matthew. And Caravaggio has set us up in that tavern. And here we see the business of the tax collecting going on when Jesus and Saint Peter, he's always easy to tell who it is because he has usually gray or white hair and beard, a blue robe with a yellow mantle. So there's Jesus and Peter, and they have come inside, and that's it. Okay, well now let's think about our characteristics of the Baroque, and we see diagonal lines. Yeah, yeah. Baroque moment, yeah, I mean, he's here pointing, but where's Matthew? Which one's Matthew? Now, I wish we were in class together because this is the question I always love to ask with this painting. I'll ask you guys, so where's Matthew? Which one do you think it is? And then you guys will tell me. I think it's the guy with the beard. You think it's the guy with the beard? Okay, people agree. I see people agreeing. Oh, who do you think? I think it's the guy with the glasses. Oh, you think it's the guy with the glasses? Okay, cool. I think it's the other guy. Which other guy? This one? This one here? Why do you guys all think these things? Let's look a little bit closer at the gestures. Remember that characteristic I told you would look at with painting? Here we are when painting. Let's look at gestures. Now, this point of Jesus is not very clear. Neither is Peter's. So it leaves a lot of guessing. And in fact, that's what's happening here. They're going, who, what, me, him, me. So we're supposed to be looking and trying to guess along with the people on this table. Okay. Well, this guy, this young man here, he's dressed like a man at the turn of what am I trying to say? In the 1500s. He's dressed like a man of 1599, 1600. He's got these white tights on and the short tunic, and he's got a sword. He's most likely the tax collector's bodyguard, right? Because you have all this money, you need somebody there. So he's like the Brink Security armored car. So his gestures, one, look at what he's about to do. He's reaching for a sword. On Jesus? Well, Jesus just came into this tavern. This is a dark place, and this light is spilled in, and now he's like, who's this guy coming in? Okay, so it's probably not that guy. This little kid, he's too young. He can't be a tax collector. Okay, what about these guys? All right, this guy's doing a very direct point. He's going, It could be him. This older man here, well, he's not even sitting at the table, so he's not a tax collector. And then there's this guy. This guy here. Okay. Now, I will zoom in on these two because there are two schools of thought. Old school art historians believe that this is Matthew. New school art historians, like me, believe this is Matthew. Now, the argument is that one is giving of coin and one is taking of coin. If you look at the gestures, for me, it seems rather obvious that the man with the beard, he's dropping his coins. He's paying his tax. The other man, the younger man, he's grabbing. He's counting. He's stooped really close and he's counting and he's got a bag. Collecting in a bag? Yes. So for me and many new school art historians, this is the obvious choice. This also goes in line with the Baroque and the idea of a Baroque moment. Remember that term, Baroque moment. This is the moment when he's the only one who has not looked up or has not had the light spilling in from behind Jesus hit his eye. What are you talking about, Miss Cortez? Okay, look. There's some light coming in. We see a window here, but it's all dirty and grimy because, well, it's a tavern. And there must be some other window here. Typical Italian Baroque. They give us the light, but they hide the origin. And it's also acting like a pointing diagonal line into this scene, but it's spilling this light of God perhaps, behind Jesus, and everybody's been struck by this light except for the young man. Look. Let me zoom in. Look. He's in this concentrated look and his pupil, I love this because it's like he's looking down and then his eye has traveled up because he's heard somebody's come into the room and he's just about to look up. Talk about a Baroque moment. Okay, what about the other characteristics of the Baroque? Well, we have diagonal lines. Yes. And I mentioned that diagonal line is kind of like a strong point, right? But it's not very direct. And you might be thinking, Caravaggio, give us a stronger point. Like, help us out here. Yes, there's the drama of being Baroque, but let's have some help. And I will say, remember this one. This one, Michelangelo's, we have Adam and Jesus with the same point? Huh? What? The reason for this is because Caravaggio is trying to make a connection between the first man and the salvation of man. Adam, he's the first, and he brings the downfall of man. Jesus is seen as the savior. So to have this in a full circle, Adam to Jesus, both of them with the same point. And it's a nice callback to Michelangelo, his, namesake. Now, additionally, Caravaggio did two other paintings within the Contarelli Chapel. So here we are looking at the chapel. The one that we were looking at is this panel here, and then the other two were also from the life of St. Matthew. The one in the middle is St. Matthew receiving the word of God to write the Gospel of St. Matthew. So here we see this angel has come down from heaven. And then the other one, the final one, is the martyrdom of St. Matthew. Now in this class we don't have the kind of time to look and appreciate all three of these, but I like to show you this image here because it gives us a better context of how we were supposed to see or view this. You see this window in the chapel. It puts in this light, this natural light that Caravaggio then filters into his painting. The light seems to blend from reality into the scenes. The light is coming from the window almost. And here that light adds as another diagonal line that plays with the guessing game of who is Matthew. The light coming down from above on the altar, right above the middle piece, the middle painting. So we look at this and we can see diagonal lines, we see gesture, we see the Baroque moment, and what else? Well, you might be thinking, it's so dark. Why is it such a dark painting? Okay, for two reasons. One, Caravaggio is trying to be honest about a tavern. He's painted the figures in clothing of the turn of the 1500s to the 1600s, and he's put them into a dark tavern that we, as people of the 1500s and 1600s, would recognize. These dirty, dingy windows here that never let in enough light. I don't know about you, but that's kind of what a tavern is. It's dark and dirty. Have you ever seen a bar with the lights on? It's gross. It's better when it's dark. So Caravaggio's setting that kind of darker tavern scene for us. Additionally, now I'm gonna zoom past this one. This type of dark scene has a vocabulary word, tenebrism. Tenebrism, it's Italian for murky. It comes from the word tenebroso, muddy or murky. And tenebrism is characterized by these large areas of darkness in contrast to these brightly illuminated areas. It's extreme light and extreme dark. And I put here, it's the opposite of chiaroscuro. With chiaroscuro, there's a balance of highlights, midtones, and shadows. Nothing's too dark, nothing's too bright. It's just a nice blend to give you some depth. Tenebrism is an extreme pull of really, really intense darkness, and then also these hot points of high brightness, highlights, and not a lot of in the middle. This technique adds drama to the scene, a characteristic of the Baroque. Think about it. We still use tenebrism today. I'm introducing tenebrism in the Baroque period, but we're going to see it outside of the Baroque because it is a very effective way at leading the eye through a scene. If you were to go to a play, right, and imagine you see the stage and then an actor like comes to the foreground and like the lights go down and there's like a spotlight on them and it tells you focus on this person. That's tenebrism. And that high contrast of the darkness with that bright light, it leads you to that element. Here, we're seeing the contrast, extreme brightness, and then these big pockets of nothingness or muddiness or murkiness. Tenebroso, tenebrism. So we have tenebrism. We have gesture, tenebrism creating drama. Gesture creating drama. We have diagonal lines. We have a Baroque moment. Also, the figures are extremely realistic. Look at these bodies. They're heavy, they're awkward, they're knobby-kneed. They're not pretty. They're realistic, just like this dirty, dingy tavern. So it's much more characteristic of the Caravaggio style that I told you about, and I think it's brilliant. In fact, he's so brilliant that others are going to be called Caravaggisti because they copy him. Like this one here. This is at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco, and it's also called the Calling of St. Matthew, and it's done in a very remarkably similar Caravaggio-like style. Tenebrism, we have these realistic images. It's a slightly different posture. It still gives us that guessing game of who is Matthew, who's the guy, but here it's very clearly, like he's the one writing it down. The other guy is measuring. This guy's probably paid his tax. He has the leisure. Oh, but maybe he's the tax collector. Maybe he's the secretary. He's the guy that's measuring it out. I don't know. Ooh, there's so much guessing going on. But this is exactly the kind of Caravaggisti influence that we can appreciate with him. Brilliant. Let's look at our next artist who is in your textbook and a Caravaggisti.